I'm Anitra Michelle, and you're inside the closet for Diarra from Detroit. The style of Detroit is Cartier glasses, fur coats, a lot of color, definitely heavy because it's cold. You know, like we're shooting a winter fall show. And so we had to make sure that everything was very winterized. Scarves, you know, leather is a big thing. And I feel like jewelry is a big thing in Detroit as well. I mean, so I feel like those were the things we were able to bring in and make each character different, but still very much so Detroit. I was born in Detroit. I left when I was about 7, but my father lived in Detroit until he passed 3 years ago. So I'm very familiar with Detroit, and I feel like I know these characters.
Major headline. I found Deontay Brooks, the missing kid from 1995.
We have Diarra, who I feel like is more of a mixed character. When she started out, she had on, you know, her classic fur coat. Detroit is very big on fur. We wanted to make sure the furs were right. This is a vintage fur that she wore to her casino look. But when you first see her, she's kind of disheveled. She's just coming to terms with what the divorce is bringing to her and really trying to figure out where she is in that space. I loved being able to transition her from teacher to her becoming a detective. One of the things I wanted to make sure that I did was to kind of bring in the elements of tweed and herringbone and, like, you know, just more textured materials and wool because it's Detroit. But the other part of it is that I felt like, you know, in the way of Inspector Gadget, you always see the detective with a trench. So Diarra has a lot of trenches that are of great fabrics and, you know, leathers and treatments. For instance, she has her cape, which I think is like a really dope piece. You know, so we tried to feed that in and kind of find some fun trenches that you don't see all the time, you know, because Detroit is over the top. So you want to make sure that you get that element of it. I feel like with her, we tried to play a lot with jewelry. We ended up doing a lot of longer earrings. Some of my favorite earrings and pieces that we did with her were her nameplate earrings. And I thought they were really something that we could kind of just play with. And as she's finding herself through character, she's kind of more well-known and we get to see her a bit. And so I love doing it in a different way that wasn't the traditional New York way with the cursive. And, you know, I wanted to give her something new and fresh for her. We did a lot of Black designers that we tried to incorporate as we went along with the show to make sure that we had that element in there. It is a Black show, it is BET, so, you know, as much as we can support younger and independent designers, and me being a former independent designer, Diarra loves rings, so, you know, things like this gold piece I thought was really like something that incorporated a lot for her.
You trying to solve this cold case, you gonna need protection. Like backup. Moni, you don't even with me.
Moni, you know, is Miss Detroit. She's a bus driver. She's been in Detroit. She still lives in the same neighborhood that they grew up in. We kind of kept her in a lot of gold and crusted chains. So I love that she constantly had a bamboo earring. You know, that was her big thing. One of the looks that I loved for her was colorful furs. You know, she's always doing something colorful or a colorful shearling, you know, something like that where it really says Moni, it really says Detroit, it really says, no, I do this. She always has a great colorful bag, which I think is indicative of her personality. Even though she's a bus driver, we know that she's been spending money that she probably shouldn't have been spending. I think her purses speak a lot to who she is as character. And I love that, you know, every time she comes out the house, you're wondering, okay, what's Moni gonna do this time?
Get the fit.
What's up? Cotton candy on you, okay?
Another big element for Moni was the Cartier glasses, which are a big part of Detroit. And I used that because I wanted to make sure that she felt like Detroit.
That's how we living.
I hear you.
And that's how we are always about to be. This how Moni bring it.
These are things that I feel like continue to elevate with Moni.
H-Town to D-Town, that's how it go down. Listen, the boys gonna love me.
Get into it.
Get into it.
Aja is like the woman who is from Detroit, but she's trying to be that new Detroit, like downtown Detroit now, you know, 35 under 35, she's moving and shaking. Aja being new Detroit, we kept her in suits a lot. She's very pulled together. She's really trying to constantly make a statement. This is what she wore. She was actually preparing for her Detroit party. 3-piece suit, you know, very pulled together, nice heel, 4 to 5 inch for sure. I don't put her in fur a lot because I feel like although New Detroit is very fur, I felt like I wanted to separate her in that way because she's trying to be a little bit more streamlined. So, you know, we tried to play with color with her coats like this periwinkle blue and kind of keep her more in wools. We did give her a little fur collar because it was a little elevated and felt more like Moni. She's very feminine, you know, wants to use her feminine wiles. Her jewelry is pretty simple and simplistic, but she wears her hair out a lot. So we kind of keep her in a hoop or, you know, in something like that. She's great because we try to incorporate color, even though she has classic shapes. And so I really like playing with that and trying to find new pieces that I can, you know, create her character with.
How long has it been, huh?
Okay, see, now, we can't always be no hotel, motel, Holiday Inn.
We also can't all be drop it low for Jesus.
Mr. T is Mr. Detroit, in my opinion. He's a guy like Moni that has been in Detroit his whole life, knows everybody in Detroit. Mr. T is probably one of my favorites, and I think because there were things that we were trying to make sure that him as a gay man still stayed as a masculine man. And so I try not to put a lot of pink or, you know, trying to bring that down in that way so that we can make sure that he's seen on screen. But we did play with elements of lighter colors in shirts and textures on pants and patterns on pants, which I thought was a lot of fun. And he's always game too. Also, like when they go to the casino, leather shirt, you know, pants, you know, so he always has on a nice shoe, a nice boot, Alexander McQueen boots, and we try to do really special colors for him so he stands out as one of the male figures on the show. T also, even when he's suited, is playing with color. And even in his personality, he's that way.
Okay, so this is what we're doing, huh? This is how we fighting? With Grand Theft Auto and dildos. This is what we doing?
Swa's name is Francois, and that really says a lot to me. But Swa is like the clean, he's the husband, he's a business owner, he moves and shakes around town. So him and Aja do have some commonalities in that way, but I feel like his style is very clean, it's very classic, he's not trying to take too many risks, and that's kind of who he is in life, you know, and I think that's maybe some of what's been the fissure between him and Diarra. He's more of a classic element. I think more like Aja, but in a neutral color palette.
It's dope. Nigerian?
Yeah, it's from the TJ Maxx home store tribe.
I like that collection.
Danger I'll talk about. Danger, when we first meet him, he's a shrouded figure, you know, he has the bubble, he has the Sherlin, you know, he's out doing dangerous business. But as we get to know him, he becomes a little bit lighter, never creams and lighter in that way, but just lighter like he's transitioning. You know, so we kind of started with making him a little more stylish and kind of, you know, more thought about. I think one of my favorite coats for Danger is this Carhartt. Carhartt's a big thing in Detroit as well, and so I really love this jacket for him. Danger doesn't get a lot of jewelry, but he is a sneaker guy. So initially he starts off with the black Nikes, you know, when he's like a darker character, but these very cool Nikes that I think are amazing, anniversary Nikes, you know, so we kind of tried to play and give him some style, but still keeping him in dangerous element.
Costumes is awesome. No, for real. Costumes, y'all did that.
I think it's a well-written show. It is a show that we haven't seen on TV before. I think seeing all of these different elements, it doesn't feel forced. It feels like something that we need to see. And I want people to see Detroit and see what goes on there.
This is Felicia Rashad. Make sure that you check out Diarra from Detroit, streaming on BET Plus now.